Let's bring in the Ohio State head coach, Ryan Day, in his second full season as the Buckeyes head coach. Coach, thanks for joining us. What game film are you looking at today?
Well, we got in early and we started on the Hoosiers, so just give us a few extra days, I guess. It's been crazy. It's been frustrating, but we're just going to move forward and worry about what we can control and on in Indiana.
When did you hear the news that the game at Maryland was canceled?
Yeah, it was about 15 minutes before our team meeting. We always meet at 2:30, for team meetings each day, and about 15 minutes before, Gene let me know, and so we relayed the information to the team, and just a tough day for our guys.
If you could schedule a replacement game, would you?
Yeah.
Because I look back at Nebraska, Coach, and I was told that there are other schools in the Big Ten that said, hey, you know what, we may be facing this scenario as well, that a game would be canceled, and you need to have that resume bulked up a little bit. Were you in favor of Nebraska being able to play somebody outside the Big Ten if a game was canceled?
Yeah, I was. I said that publicly, but especially when it's hard to look at your team in the eye and tell them they can't play when they've done everything you've asked them to do. I guess you chalk it up to 2020. I know it's not as easy as just saying, hey, let's just go schedule a game. There's a lot of implications and different things that have to go into play. So I totally respect that, but certainly would be in favor of trying to figure out a way to get it done. But I also understand the complexity of it all.
Yeah, and I was wondering if you coaches had been able to talk to the Big Ten about this, or can you have a conversation now, because you may run into this another time before the Big Ten title game?
Yeah, we had a lot of conversations leading up to the season, weekly meetings with the Big Ten coaches. I mean, so many Zoom calls. I don't even know how many we had, but it was a lot. But then once you get into the season, it's hard because just all of your attention and time goes to winning the next game, getting the guys ready for practice. So it's hard to carve out time to have these type of conversations. We could pretty much leave that up to the ADs, the administrators. It just your time gets tough during the week.
You got a good sense of how good your team is?
Not really. No. I mean, I think we have a chance, but without having spring ball, without having preseason, without the non-conference games, there's a lot of snaps that our team didn't have, and so we're trying to play catch up and get going with these snaps. And so I don't know. I think we have a chance. I think we have some talent, but we need to play. We need to play games. We need to make mistakes. We need to work through those things and learn. And we're, the only way to do it right now for us to play a little bit of this catch up is to practice better and practice against each other. Nothing replaces games, but we got to do everything we can in our power to practice and make sure every rep in practice is a game rep. But I think this week, looking forward to Maryland, was an opportunity to take the next step. We'll just have to keep working and take that next step against Indiana.
What did you think of Tonga Bailoa?
I thought he was playing well the last couple games. I think, they did a great job of getting the ball out of his hand quickly, especially in the last two games. I think he's got some pretty talented receivers. And he just kind of has a little bit of that it factor. And it was going to be, we're looking forward to playing him. But a lot of respect for that family. They're there's something magical about those two guys.
He's Ryan Day, the Ohio State head coach. If a scout called and said, tell me what Justin Fields' best trait is, what would you say?
I think that's what makes him special. Is there's several. I think when you look at him physically, he's big, he's strong, and he's fast. He's got a strong arm, but he has some just innate accuracy that is special. And you can't teach things like that. He sees it. It makes sense to him. Spaces make sense to him. He can anticipate what his receivers and defenders are doing. So accuracy is big. But then he also is very, very intelligent, and he can take a meeting to the field pretty quickly. So I think all of those things combined is what makes him special.
I had a scout tell me it's hard to assess Ohio State quarterbacks, and not just Ohio State, but other programs, because there's so much talent around them. Is that a fair? I don't know if you get this or you will get this. I watched Dwayne Haskins against Michigan at home. Those receivers were wide open. I mean, it felt like he could do whatever he wanted. I didn't know how to assess how good he was or is. And I think Justin Fields will probably go through that as well. Can you see where scouts are going to go? How good is he, but how good is the team around him?
I mean, I think we have a lot of talent, and I think that we do have good pieces around them. But that's That's why the scouts get paid a lot of money. It's the same thing when we recruit quarterbacks in high school. If they come from a good program, you got to project the best you can and try to figure that part of it out. But we do. You're right. We have good players around, and that certainly helps.
What do you look for, though? Is it tougher, do you think, to see a quarterback playing in the NFL or a quarterback playing in college when you're recruiting?
That's a great question. I think the high school part is probably the hardest because we don't get to spend as much time with them. Where in college, these guys come in, they work them out, they really spend time with them, they get to know them, they can really do anything they want with them physically. The scouts go and watch them play in games. We don't, and especially now with everything going on with COVID, we don't get to see these guys play live. We don't get to work them out either. We're lucky if they come to our camp, and then we just try to do the best we can to figure out who they are as people and watch their film. So I think it's a lot easier to project them into the NFL. Now they still have to go play, and there's a lot that goes with that, and that's not easy. So it's not easy for either situation, but it's hard in college because you don't really get to go work people out. You don't get to evaluate them in that manner, and so it's difficult.
Your players know that you played quarterback in college?
Some of them do. I don't think all of them do. I don't think some of them know exactly where I played either, but some of them certainly do.
What kind of quarterback were you at New Hampshire?
Chip would probably describe me maybe as an overachiever. Great athlete. Had to figure out ways to make it work because wasn't as talented as some of the other guys, which makes sense probably why I'm a coach. Try to figure out the angles and then a way to try to find an advantage. So, the first 3 years of playing was the first 3 years of Chip being a coordinator, and kind of on the no huddle and the spread was kind of in its infancy. And so I was a guinea pig. Some days it worked, some days not so good. So, and I have some of the scars to show, but it was fun to be around.
And the Chip you're talking about, of course, is Chip Kelly, who was offensive coordinator there at New Hampshire. How often, like on a daily basis, how often do you hear about Michigan?
A lot. I mean, it's just part of our life. I think not. Kind of being in isolation of your home and then being in the Woody here, it's a little different. You don't get to see as many people anymore.
But like last year, how often you're on the street, your grocery store, wherever you are, how often are you hearing about Michigan?
Yeah, that's all. That's every day. It's every day. It's at my son's bus stop. It's when my wife goes to the grocery store. I mean, it's every day.
I love it, but I grew up with it. But I don't have to hear it every day like you do.
Oh, yeah. It's the number one thing. I mean, your number one job when you get here is to be the team up north. Yeah. And then everything comes after that. And so, yeah, the anxiety builds as you get closer to the game for sure.
Well, you got a lot of time to figure out Indiana there. And thanks for joining us, Coach. We appreciate your time. Good luck the rest of the season.
No, thanks. It's great being here.
It's Ryan Day, Ohio State head football coach.